do that?
It's not a substantial amount.
Because that way, if a resident contacts us about it, it's nice if we have a list of people who are out in our town.
Or maybe it's even something that we'd want to post on the website somewhere too. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be even better.
And then it's more for the residents too, that they would know. And then it's probably less, you can just pop it up there when somebody gets approval. All right. I think we still need a motion for this.
Second.
It's moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Howard. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard? Yes. Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance is passed. The next one is an ordinance by Princeton concerning Corner House and amending the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974, and the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. I'd like to open the public hearing for this ordinance, and seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And are there any questions on this ordinance, or is there a motion to approve? Ms. Butler?
Well, I was just going to say, in this month's police report, by the by, we did have a soliciting without a permit in March. There was a summons issued, actually. So there you go.
Somebody called in. Thank you.
I forgot to highlight that. We did have a, but I didn't, I was sort of thinking about the peddling. We've been working on an ordinance, so I did recall it's a new category.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Mr. Liverman and seconded by Ms. Crum-Miller. Madam Clerk, seconded by Ms. Butler.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon? Motion carries.
Great, that ordinance passed. The next is an ordinance by Princeton concerning the hotel usage tax and amending the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974. I'd like to open the public hearing for this ordinance, and seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions, or is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Crum-Miller and seconded by Mr. Miller. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, that ordinance passes. The next is an ordinance by Princeton concerning landscaping registration and amending the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. I know there's going to be a motion to table this, but we still need to open the public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing for this ordinance, and I'm going to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. And I let the governing body know that I wanted to do this. It's actually not about any concerns with the underlying ordinance as proposed, but it's actually that this seems a nice opportunity, and we touched on this when this was introduced, a month ago, whenever it was we introduced this, that this ordinance is one opportunity for us to address wage theft in town. And as part of the Human Services Commission Subcommittee on Immigration work, we've been trying to look for more ways to increase our education and enforcement of the state wage theft provisions. So there are two places here where I think we could amend it, but I want to make sure we take our time doing so appropriately, and would recommend that we table it today, and would ask that John Howler, who chairs our Immigration Subcommittee, that he work with Bob Huff, and Bob Huff knows that I was going to make this motion, to do so in a way that's appropriate and not burdensome to the Department of Public Works. But I think the two places are, one, where the landscapers, when they get their registration, they have to recognize that they've received information about the leaf and brush schedule. We could also give them a one-pager on wage theft and what the enforcement penalties are. The second is the provision that lists the revocable offenses, the offenses for which you could have your license revoked, and we might want to suggest that violation of state wage theft laws would be a revocable offense. So those are the two places, but I want to make sure that we draft it in the right way, and we haven't had time to consult with Public Works, so didn't want to spring it on them. So I would make a motion to table this to allow that time to work, and would hope we'd be able to come back soon with those amendments.
I'd second that.
So a motion to table is made by Ms. Howard and seconded by Ms. Butler. Ms. Crum-Miller, did you have a comment?
Also, we should all talk about, with Lisa Maddox also, I told her briefly before the meeting about this, and she had already had a suggestion for changing the,
I think you would also want to look into amending Section 10C-1, which discusses the purpose of the chapter, which right now is more limited, and it deals with just ensuring that the landscapers to be registered are familiar with the leaf branch and log collection program. It was just a more limited purpose years back when this was first put into place. So now I think you have additional purposes that can be added to the registration requirement, so that we can also work on amending and ensuring the correct language is added.
And I'll tee up for, that the two particular industries where we tend to see the wage theft are landscaping and restaurants. So we've already I want to tee up that when we eventually get to the restaurant inspection ordinance, that may be an opportunity as well to promote education of wage theft and how seriously we take it here. So I know that's later on the agenda for later in the process, but we'll tee that up. So, Lisa, we obviously should include you in the discussions about how to amend it. Thank you.
Ms. Butler?
Well, just a process question. So the work that they're doing would come to the subcommittee on the ordinances, to Bernie, myself, and to Jenny, and this will probably require reintroduction because it's a substantial change? Okay, so we'll have to reintroduce and have a...
If you're ready, I think we have our next ordinance harmonization is that middle meeting in June. So if you're ready, then we can just pop it in. It would be great. And if not, we'll have to do it the next time. And if you're ready and it's not as part of that, we can probably put it on a regular meeting.
Let me make sure I understand. Our next council meeting or the subcommittee's meeting?
Well, I think the subcommittee is probably going to be meeting before that,
just teasing that
council meeting in the middle of June.
it's June 16th.
Got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Okay. Well, good. Well, we'd like to move quickly, so that'll be some impetus. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, well, I also wanted to say, I was glad you brought up the restaurants, because I was wondering if there were other places in the ordinance where we could do this. I mean, like in the construction, I mean, this is another thing.
That's a great point. We really,
Maybe we should just, then, I mean, I know we'll be thinking about it as we're looking at the ordinances, but there might be others.
Well, we're enlisting the help of somebody from New Labor, which is an organization based in New Brunswick that works especially on immigrant labor rights issues. And so a lawyer there who worked on New Brunswick has done some interesting work in their code on this issue. So he'll be in part of this discussion, and actually, that's a great point we should raise with him. Where else should we look? Because it would be great to be sending a message at all the right points. So I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, great. So a motion to table has been moved by Ms. Howard and seconded by Ms. Butler. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion to table passes, and we will have it for reintroduction at some point in the near future. Let's see, where are we? Next is an ordinance by Princeton concerning jogging and amending the code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. And I'd like to open the public hearing for this ordinance, and seeing no one, I will close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Butler and seconded by Mr. Liverman. I think our two joggers on the council, so that's very appropriate. And Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, the ordinance passes. Next is an ordinance by Princeton concerning the Princeton Public Library and amending the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974, and the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. I'd like to open the public hearing for this ordinance, and seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And is there a motion? Yeah, Mr.
Can I
Simon.
ask a question before a motion, which is, when was this actually introduced? I'm having trouble tracking that down.
It was May 5th?
It was May 5th.
May 5th, yes.
Yes.
I'll make a motion. Do you looking for a motion?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Howard and seconded by Mr. Liverman. And Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Did you find it?
Okay. Was there a concern about that? Mr.
Yeah,
Simon?
I'm actually not seeing it in the agenda, so unless I'm confused, I may be missing it. I'm sorry, I'm doing this quite quickly, but I actually don't see the library ordinance having been introduced.
From the May 5th agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
It's possible I'm misreading the agenda, I'm sorry, if that's the case.
Well, if we make a mistake and accidentally have the public hearing, do we just redo it at the next meeting?
I mean, all my...
I think we remember us having this on.
There is a code review discussion and introduction, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Okay.
It was in a separate section from the ordinance introductions.
Okay, great. All right. The next is, so the library ordinance passes, and the next is an ordinance by Princeton concerning the Princeton Environmental Commission and amending the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974, and the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. I'd like to open the public hearing for this ordinance. Come on. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And is there a motion to approve?
Second.
It's moved by Ms. Butler and seconded by Mr. Liverman. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crummiller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? Yes. Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, terrific. And the last ordinance passes. And I want to just extend my thanks again to the Ordinance Review Committee for making this fairly smooth sailing. So I think that was maybe the tip of the iceberg, or the tip of the iceberg. So keep it up. It's no, this is really important work that we're doing. So thank you,
And thanks to Lisa, too.
and thank you, Lisa. Yes.
Not that she's not getting paid for it, but...
All right, and now we come to the consent agenda, which contains items of a routine nature, which are approved by a single vote. And before I read the list, are there any items that anyone would like removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none. Item A, bills and claims. B, maintenance performance guarantees. Princeton University, 4 Mercer Street, release of performance guarantee contingent upon receipt of acceptable maintenance guarantee. Martinez Construction, 48 Lee Avenue, extension of time to May 31st, 2015. Princeton University Sidewalk Extensions Project, Faculty Road, Fitz-Randolph Road, South Drive, extension of time to July 31st, 2014. And item C, 14-171, Fire Department membership for Melissa Cavagnaro-Wang. And is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Liverman and seconded by Mr. Miller. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crummiller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? Yes. Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, the consent agenda passes. And now is there a motion to move into closed session?
Seconded.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Simon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
This body will now convene into a closed session that will be limited only to consideration of an item or items with respect to which the public may be excluded pursuant to Section 7B of the Open Public Meetings Act. The general nature of the subject or subjects to be discussed in said session is as follows: litigation, negotiations, Lanwin, Avalon Bay,